This is a LEGO minifigure scale Minecraft minecart track, which somehow uses these treads to work. And this is a working Minecraft fishing mechanism that incorporates this giant LEGO ring gear in order to function. But I'm not just stopping there, because today we're gonna go all out and build 5 more Minecraft mechanisms, using weird pieces, cool building techniques, and numerous fancy mechanisms, starting by using these bevel gears and bracket to make a floating item in LEGO. Okay, I can top it with this green plate that has a hole right where the clear rod is. Use these wedge tiles to fill the gap and put an item on top, like this bundle. Whoa, that actually really looks like an in-game floating item. What other items can we add? Well, here's an egg, and here's a bucket, and here's an iron helmet. We can also add some diamonds, or an emerald. The mechanism is simple enough too. This camshaft lifts the axle up and down while this other axle rotates, transferring the spinning motion to the item. And just like I said I'd use, these bevel gears give us 2 outputs, so I can lift the item up and down and rotate in a circle, getting 2 different functions with just 1 motor. Okay, but what about using this giant ring gear to make a working fishing mechanism? Well, first, I built a platform with some blue plates, leaving a 4x4 hole in the middle, and built it up with a black border and a beach on this side for the minifigure to stand. Tiling this took a very long time. I also left this single block loose, which will be a cool way to make the minifigure attract the fishing pole. This is a round gear rack. I'm gonna hopefully use it for the mechanism. So I built a sort of bearing using these round Technic beams which hold the racks in place with minimal friction. Fishing is definitely a lot simpler in Minecraft. Underneath the lifting block I built a lever, that way I can press it down here and it lifts the minifigure pole here. But I had a better idea while building this. What if you could actually reel in the catch with the real fishing line? So I got some and strung it through the fishing pole. Okay, I'll add a spool and winch mechanism back here. And as for what to catch, well, you'll see. Speaking of seeing, let's see if it works. Needed a little assistance on that one, but we caught a bone. And here's a fish. Oh, and we got a different fish. And finally, we got an enchantment book. On the gear rack, there's 4 platforms that I can set a magnetic item on, and this motor spins a wheel that consistently spins the whole thing. Then when the item comes around and magnets onto the hook, I can turn the crank here and reel in the catch. But next, I want to build a working water bucket clutch. The key here is actually a little spring from a pen, because I built this base up that will have a normal Minecraft stone block quickly swapped to have a water block on top of it. Here's the water block assembly, which we can build into the base above the spring, giving no room for either to go anywhere we don't want them to, only up and down. Then I can build around it, covering it with the end of this tile. And I'll build up a cliff on this side, which can be what the minifigure falls off in the first place, just like this. That block switch mechanism works so perfectly. It honestly does look like a minifigure water bucket clutching, but not enough because I don't like having to have my hand right here guiding the minifig down. So I used a long Lego axle built into a block here as a guide for the minifigure. That way I can attach this plate here and disconnect it, dropping the minifigure off a cliff and making the water bucket clutch even cooler. Okay, that's the first 3 mechanisms done, and we have 4 left, which means I can now build a working Minecraft boat. To make this work, I'm going to be using magnets, but we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. First, I need to build an entire gantry, which allows a certain point on this machine to move in all directions within a specified area. I managed to make a super simple one using these big lead screw pieces that rotate and move a housing piece side to side. Then when you combine 2 different directions, you end up with a working gantry. I've housed the magnet in here, and then I can put this fish tank on top with a bit of water in it and build a Minecraft boat with a second magnet in the bottom. Then I can place it in the tank. There are a few issues to iron out, but now it works. That's such a satisfying build. I really like being able to control it, and for the most part, the magnet is strong enough to guide the boat around. I've built 2 other ways to have small boats drive around this fish tank, and each one has been so different. It's pretty cool what you can do with different pieces. Like these chain links, which I connected these 2 lead screw parts together with, since if they weren't driven at the same time with the same motor, they would have gotten out of sync. Okay, that was cool, but now it's time to move on to the next mechanism. And I'm once again going to be using these tread pieces to make a working Lego minecart. In my Minecraft Redstone video, I made a section of theoretically working minecart using the same chain, but it was running flat and was very visible and looked bad. Plus, it was only like 10 studs long. So for this one, I want to build an entire loop, which I will lay out with these pieces that hold a gear, 1 in each corner, and then quickly build out the walls around it and in the center. The key to making this wall work is obviously the chain, but there's a single specific piece that really comes in clutch, this chain link with a bar sticking out of it, which will allow me to attach the minecart on top. But I also need a way to power it, and it's tricky because these gears aren't really drivable since there's a chain wrapped all around them, but using a gear on the other side would push the chain out of the straight line of travel. But thankfully, using the right Lego math, we can space it just right that the gear meshes with the chain without pushing it in, which I can attach a bevel gear to and then build a hand crank on the outside. Okay, next was the tedious task of covering the top, which I'll mostly skip over, but the key here is using tiles and brackets on the sides to make it look like a minecart rail. Unfortunately, because the tread is sticking the bar up through the middle of the track, I can't really build what the track would look like, but I tried to make a gray rail on each side using these pieces. And it perfectly closes the gap around this little bar that sticks out. Then all I have to do is build a little minecart, stick Steve in it, and put it on the bar, and turn this crank. And wow, that is honestly like 1,000 times better than I did it last time. And there's something cool about being able to hand crank it as it goes along. Okay, for the next mechanism, I'm actually going to be building up here, because I'm making a working Minecraft elytra. First, I'll build some supports on the wall going outwards, and I can attach this big turntable gear, which really confuses me because I don't seem to have a single gear that meshes with the teeth when attached to this hole. So instead of using that one, I switched to using this much smaller one, which meshes perfectly with this small gear. Then I can attach a motor at the top and run an axle down the center, which I was going to have a gear on, which spun this small gear, which would then run against the turntable, getting both a spinning motion on the axle and also a rotation around the center, but again, no gear would quite work. But I realized I could just attach it to a bar with this piece here, which spins it perfectly. So I added the necessary electronics to the wall, put this gear on the end with a clear bar, which will move the minifigure up and down as the bar rotates, and added Steve to the end of it. And wow, that's honestly kinda lame, to be honest. So thankfully, I built an entirely secret other mechanism using tons of gears, more of these turntables, and roller coaster tracks that endlessly spins this coaster cart around and around in a sort of figure 8. And I can't take credit for this idea, this channel made it a couple of years ago, and I just adapted it. So I can put a long clear bar on it, and our flying minifigure, and wow, that's a whole lot cooler than the other one. But now it's time for our final mechanism, and this time I think I want to go back to my redstone roots. So let me shrink the world size. This idea is also something I tried in this video, the same as the minecart, but honestly it was even worse than the minecart in that video. And there's two key pieces that I have now that I didn't back then that are going to make this extra cool. This power function switch and this power function servo motor, which when combined allow me to control exactly a 180-degree turn in the motor, instead of a normal motor that would just spin non-stop. So with these pieces I got to work building up the side of a mountain to put the door in. Then I can flip it around and start working on the mechanism in the back. First, I'll make the two sides of the door and connect them to some gear racks on each side. Lucky for me, this Lego servo motor actually has two axles that can be attached on either side. So I can put it at the back here and then it will drive axles that will be able to open the doors. Then I can use my trusty bevel gears and build out a section on each side to turn the gear racks, which hopefully when I turn this lever here, it should make the doors open and close the perfect amount. That's like the simplest but most satisfying way I could have possibly done that. I wonder what's inside. Oh, it's that video. You should click on that next. You'll really like it. I promise. Go do it right now. Thanks for watching. This was really fun to make. Bye.